So I've been trying to think about where my hope comes from, because I know a lot about what's going wrong now, having worked with the climate scientists. And I think every time you see something that you couldn't have previously imagined, whether that's an artwork, a look on someone's face, a piece of nature, that reminds you of our ingenuity. And I think we are the most ingenious species that has ever existed, and we absolutely can sort this. But we have to look out for the special, and we have to move into the unexpected, and allow all these things to happen around us without necessarily controlling them all. It's just about that presence, having that kind of presence. But there's something in seeing something that you couldn't have previously imagined, and that reminds me that we are capable of this.
Does that help?
Does that make sense? You are capable of this. It actually started in January of 2013. We were holding a meeting where I'd invited 3 different types of entities to get together. So I was interested in what business might have to say about climate change. Very interested in what the climate scientists at the Met Office might have to say about climate change. And then also the psychology of it, the feeling that why we as a species have such difficulty with facing it, either disbelief or feeling that we can make any kind of contribution to reversing it or stilling it. So everything changed from that point. I didn't know if it would necessarily be a fit with my work life as it was, but it felt beyond work. And then started to set about how I could repurpose either something I'd done in the past in service to this, or whether to make something entirely new, which would need a reason. I've learnt in the sort of last 20 years that using the power of dress and fashion is often a way to be able to deliver a message that's a lot more serious than it, in a way that makes people not shut down or get defensive. So it's this no one's afraid of a frock thing. And then was sitting in an airport lounge and was just watching those big screens, very early in the morning, and it was just back to back refugee tents. And that just struck me in that moment that that's what it needed. It didn't need anything new, it needed something that was the reverse of new, something that was drenched in humanity already. And that's when the idea of the tent came up. So I just sat in the lounge and found out who was the head of comms for the UNHCR and sent her a "you don't know me" email, which is often how these good projects start. And said, I've noticed this link between climate change and refugees, and it doesn't seem to be being spoken of. I'm not quite sure, but this would be an unexpected way to engage with it, especially with the summit coming up. And she's just sent a one-liner back saying, I really like this idea, we'll get this to happen. Well, then the difficult bit started, which is how you do get a tent to come backwards, because tents don't come backwards, they only ever go out. We wanted one that had a history and a legacy to it, so we didn't want a new one. We wanted something that had been lived in. Started talking to the UNHCR in the UK. They found a girl on the front line who said she was decommissioning a tent. It took about 2 days to get from Jordan and about 4 weeks to get it through UK customs. And then started working with a guy called Mark, who was my pattern cutter when I was in my fashion days. And then I went away on holiday and said, don't touch it till I get back. But when I came back, he'd done it. And I said, what did you do? He said, you just walked into the middle and picked it up by the chimney. And that was it. That was the piece. So it came to life very, very quickly. We then started working out whether it would mean anything to anybody else. And then to show it to Helen, who were going to work on the technology side. I always thought it was going to be a technology project, but that we were going to share data in a way that wasn't expected. So data in the forms that it's most often communicated kind of relies on someone having a particular way to access things. It's usually very screen-led. There's hardly anything soft about it, and I think a lot of people don't delve into it. So the idea of colliding something as ephemeral as fashion and data together seemed also the right approach. particularly when you're trying to get people to engage with something they don't want to engage with. You almost need subterfuge, or you need something really quite subtle and awesome and very opposite to what you're trying to get people to engage with in order to get them to engage. Knowing that the climate summit was coming up, it felt like a dateline we really had to run to. But in doing so, I think we ended up with something at St Pancras Station, which is where we first showed it, that was really just scratching the surface of what we want to do data-wise. But it was potent enough to get people to stop and jaws drop, etc. Being in St Pancras, you get every different type of person. You get all life is there, as it were, and in some ways that was also a deliberate part of the project, which is to place it in the middle of everyday life, to disturb somebody's everyday and let them discover it. And we knew an awful lot of the climate activists and those who were going to make key decisions in terms of, on behalf of the UK, were going to be going through that way. So it became the sort of edge of Paris for us. What I learnt from doing our film, watching a woman walk very slowly in the middle of everybody's day life, is an incredibly potent thing. To drag something that matters in physical form through a city is a very powerful thing to do, and there's enough cities around the world for us to do that. So there were 15 partners on the project, 102 individuals working on it, and 17,536 emails. So the project going forward is going to roll out over the next probably 2 or 3 years, continuing to work with the UNHCR and also other major museums and galleries along the way. If we can find a way to keep people, quietly activist-like in their own hearts and minds about something we can all contribute to, that would be a success for me. The best it could be is that it's catalysed a way for them to remain in relationship to the reason for it existing. And it wouldn't matter if they forgot the project, but if they would just remember the experience of connecting to something that was really difficult to connect to, staying connected for it for a while, and then they will neurally know that's possible. Some of the best things we'll never know. And that's part of the sort of act of faith in working in this way, which is you may do good you never see. It is about catalysing this ability to stay in this space in other people. It's when you find yourself in service to something that has a purpose and has a meaning, which was what I felt I was grappling for when we had that January meeting way back when, which is how can I serve this? There is a payoff because you are relieved of this thing called ego every now and again, which is the thing that strangles us all.